So, somebody's doing a statewide poll of Indiana about the Mid-States corridor. And by polling, I mean polling. A friend sent me screenshots of this survey they got via text message. And I took one look at it and went, oh no, we got to talk about this. So let's go through this thing together. I'll show you exactly why this isn't a real poll and what it's actually designed to do. Okay, so here's the intro. We're doing a survey on the issues facing Indiana today, and we would like to have your opinions. Now, it doesn't say who we is. I see that it's, this sawtoothsoftware.com address. I'm going to give them the benefit of the doubt here and assume that I just wasn't sent the cover page or the first page of this text and may have done that. So, are you registered to vote in Indiana? Pretty standard question. Does any member of your family work for a radio or television station, etc.? That's pretty standard. How often do you vote? They want to know that. Do you plan to vote in the primary? For which party? Pretty standard. How are you voting? By mail? Or that's pretty standard as well. Age, gender. Okay, so here's the first actual question. Do you approve or disapprove of the way Mike Braun is handling his job as governor? Strongly, somewhat approve, somewhat disapprove, strongly disapprove. And notice that there's 4 options here. That's standard. It gives you kind of a range. Like you approve of it, you approve a little, but you don't disapprove, or you disapprove a little, or you strongly disapprove. It gives you a full range. That's going to be important later. Okay. Right direction, wrong track. That's a bit odd phrasing, but usually it's right direction, or right track or wrong track, but that's fine. If it was held today, who would you vote for? That's standard. Okay. Now things get interesting. So I'm going to read this to you verbatim. Now, you are going to read a list of issues. After you read the issue, please indicate if you believe the issue, if it is important or not important in deciding you vote for Congress. So first of all, great grammar, really inspiring confidence in this operation. But more important, look at the framing. They're not asking, do you support or oppose these things? They're asking, is this issue important to you? That's a very different question, and it's important that you understand why. Now, watch this list. Border security. That's important. I'd say it's very important. Economy and inflation. That's very important. Working family tax cuts. Also, a very important issue. Military action in Iran. War is a pretty important thing. Federal government spending. That's a pretty important thing as well. Now, I skipped ahead a little bit, so let me back up for just a second and say, did you see the pattern there? Those are all issues people care about. They're all very important issues. And that's exactly the point. By the time you've said important 5 times in a row, you're going to keep saying it. It's not about your politics. That's just how surveys work. And then, Mid-States Corridor Project. That's it. That's the whole question. Mid-States Corridor Project. No description, no cost, no context. No, this is a $1 billion highway through Du Bois County that saves you 1 minute. Just the name. Sandwiched between federal government spending and lowering healthcare costs. This is a magician's trick, folks. You prime people with 5 issues they deeply care about. Get them in a rhythm of marking very important, very important. Then you slip in your $1 billion pet project with no context and just, hope they keep the pattern going. Now here's the real kicker. Even if somebody marks very important because they oppose the Mid-States corridor, because it is very important to them that this thing gets stopped, it doesn't matter. The results will say, quote, X% of voters say the Mid-State corridor is important, and that will be reported as support. That's the game. And then after the Mid-States corridor, it's right back to comfort food. We got lowering healthcare costs, also important farmland preservation. That's 2 issues that everyone agrees are important. just to make sure the Mid-States Corridor doesn't stick too much in your memory. Now, some people are going to say, well, Brad, you did a poll too. How's yours any different? Great question. Let me show you exactly how. So, our poll was conducted by Public Policy Polling, one of the most well-known polling firms in the country. Their name was on it. Their methodology is published. Everyone knew who paid for this and why because we had a press conference right after it was released. Now, our poll asked a direct question. Now, we did start with approve or disapprove of Donald Trump and Mike Braun, but keep in mind, DuBois County is very small. A lot of people are going to get this and hang up if they don't see right away this is just a standard political survey. The third question, the Mid-States Corridor is a proposed 4-lane highway. According to project documents, expected benefits include improved regional access, safety improvements, and some travel time savings. The segment through DuBois County is about 23 miles and is estimated to cost about $1.1 billion, or roughly $47 million per mile. Do you strongly support, somewhat support, somewhat oppose, or strongly oppose the Mid-States Corridor? Now, that's a real question. It gives you facts, what it is, where it goes, what it costs, and then it asks you what you think. That's how polling works. This survey, it says Mid-States Corridor project and asked if the issue is important. No cost, no description, no route, no context. Important can mean anything, and it will mean whatever the people who pay for this survey want it to mean. Now, our poll surveyed 636 DuBois County voters, the actual community affected. Now, I would welcome a statewide version of this poll because the Mid-States Corridor is going to affect the entire state. INDOT canceled over 400 other important road projects across the state because of lack of funding. Where do you think a lot of that funding is now intended to go? So, this survey is going to statewide voters, most of whom have never heard of the Mid-States Corridor and have no idea what it is. And it gives no context at all about what this project is about. It's being sent to people who couldn't point the Mid-States Corridor route out on a map. Now, our poll included follow-up questions. There was questions about travel time savings and how important that would be. 1 minute from downtown Jasper to Louisville and 3 minutes from downtown Jasper to Indianapolis. That's pretty important. It's a Mid-States Corridor is built. The Jasper and Huntingburg and the county might have to take responsibility for US 231, including the cost of maintaining it. That's very important to local people. We asked some election accountability questions. Are you more or less likely to vote for someone who supports the Mid-States Corridor? And do you think local elected officials should clearly state where they stand in the Mid-States Corridor? These are important questions to everybody. Everyone wants to know that whether or not, they'll have more or less support based on supporting or opposing this project. Now, let me point something else out here. Notice on our Mid-States Corridor question, we've got strong support, somewhat oppose, and strongly oppose. So there's a nice wide range of support options that people can choose. Let's swing back to this push poll here. What do we got? Very important, somewhat important, and only one negative option. It's not important. They don't say it's like really not important or super not important. So there's basically 3 options here, and 2 of them suggest that it's important to you. So, look, I don't know who paid for this. I don't know which consulting firm built it, but I do know what it's for. There's a proposal in the state Senate right now to cancel the Mid-States Corridor and redirect all of those funds to the 400-plus road and bridge projects that got canceled across Indiana. Governor Braun is expected to veto it, And somebody needs to give him and the legislators being asked to sustain that veto something to hide behind. This survey is that something. It's designed to generate a headline that says, Republican voters support the Mid-States Corridor. Or at the very least, Republican voters think the Mid-States Corridor is very important, which is true. So they can use it against the cancellation bill. It's not research, it's ammunition. But here's the thing. It's actually kind of a compliment. You don't spend money on a push poll unless you know you're losing. Nobody manufactures fake support for a project that's doing just fine. They're doing this because 81% of DuBois County said no. They're doing this because the legislature is moving to kill it. They're doing this because they're desperate. So if you get this survey texted to your phone, and you might, it's going statewide, now you know what it is. And now you know what to do with it. I'm Brad Hoaksong. This has been Push Pulling with Brad. Share this video, and if you're a legislator watching this, I'd be real careful about citing this survey in any floor speeches, because now everyone's seen the slides. Thanks for watching. See you next time.